Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining for today's session. My name is Daizen. I'm from the author at Okta. I'm a developer advocate. And we were supposed to have the speaker, Ashish, from the solution engineer from DevRev, but he wasn't able to make it today, so I'm going to just speaking by alone. Today's talk is your AI agents are overprivileged, the case for the fine-grained authorization. So we're going to talk about the agent AI with the security thing, and especially for the RAG scenarios. So let's get started. So rise of the AI, we started using AI since 2023. Nowadays, our research shows that 1/3 of the people are regularly using the AI in a daily basis. So show me your hands. How many of you have used Gen AI before, like a ChatGPT or Anthropic? Please raise your hand, please. Yeah, thanks. And also, how many of you have created or built AI agent by your own thing? Thank you. Okay. So, the rise of the AI, we started using Gen AI for our daily life. So here are a couple of the things that I want to cover. One is the generative AI, which is you can ask questions, then you can get an answer or create text, image, anything. Also, in Gen AI, you can ask questions in natural languages. You don't have to type a code to have the AI to do something. And also, there's called the AI agents with the tool calling, which does job for you. For example, the access into your calendar to get the schedule or ordering stuff on behalf of you. And also, in enterprise system, that model usually don't have the information for your company's internal information. So you may be using the RAG to get the relevant data or relevant document to feed into the model to get answers. To sum up, there are two new sides of the AI. One is interactive with the people. Like I said, you don't have to type a programming code. You can ask questions to query the things that you want to do. And AI agents perform tasks, search your answers, or perform some tasks for you, or accessing to the data that needs to have information in order to answer your questions. So right now, people are trying to connect your data or your existing services with the Gen AI applications. But often, it's overlooked with the security. Because first, you want to try to connect everything to get an answer. And usually, the authentication and authorization are overlooked. So there are some incidents happening for a couple of years, like AI agent application accessing to the internal company's data and leaked to the internet. Or AI agent was almost to purchase something that you didn't want to. So you saw a lot of the news. So there are a community called OWASP, Open Worldwide Application Security Project, started defining those risks a couple of years ago. And the latest one is top 10 LLM risks and mitigations. Some of them you can control. Some of them you cannot control as an AI application developer. But today, we are focusing on something that you can control 100%. So out of these 10 LLM risks, you can control 7 of them as an AI developer. Especially for I want to focus on the sensitive information disclosure inside of this call. Also, there are 4 security auth concerns a Gen AI agent must address. So in order to have secure AI agents on your side, you have to implement these 4 things. Let's look at those 4. First one, the AI needs to know who I am or who user that they are using. So you have to authenticate the users in order to perform specific tasks for the users. It's similar to our existing application. So like our existing application, you have to authenticate the users inside of your AI agent application. Also, AI needs to call APIs on behalf of the you, which means the AI needs to call external APIs to get data, or needs to call external API to write or purchase something new. So you have to secure those calls as well. Also, the third one is pretty important. You don't want to let AI do everything autonomously, without your permission or without your approval or rejection. So you have to have like a points that users can interrupt the AI workflow to make a decision whether I want the AI agent to purchase the, some kind of the goods, or no, I don't want to do that, or something like that. And the last one is when AI searches data, typically models don't have the information that necessary to answer question, especially for the enterprise system. So you want to plug into your internal resources to the model to get answer, but you want to make it to be very carefully, because, like I said, you don't want to expose internal information to the model, which means you can leak your confidential data to the outside of your company. Or that, sometimes that some employees shouldn't have the access that they should have. For example, like a financial information. Maybe CEO can access to the data, but as a sales manager, should I have access to the financial data? Maybe not. So inside of your AI application, you need to control access or authorization in order to make it secure for the AI agent. So like I said, for this talk, I'm going to focus on the first one, sensitive information disclosure, when you are using RAG. So let's see a practical example. AI agent can only access to company's public record unless explicitly authorized. Like I said, the AI agent shouldn't access to the internal information unless it's published to the internet, or unless you have the permission. AI agent must not modify existing records when you search the information, obviously. And the last one, AI agent must not access confidential records or records belonging to the other employees. Like I said, financial information or personal identifiable information, PII thing. So the important thing is you have to put authorization inside of the RAG pipeline to make it very secure for each user has own the privileges. AI agent has proper privilege to access data. So just a refresher for the authentication versus authorization. Probably you may know everything about this, but let me introduce again. So authentication confirms the user who they say they are. Let's say I'm Daizen. How should I know? How should agent know I'm Daizen? You have to authenticate. So typically, you provide like a username and ID, or username and password, or like the passkeys kind of things to authenticate. On the other hand, authorization means gives the users permission to access resources. Hey, I'm Daizen. Can I access to the financial information? Maybe yes, maybe not, something like that. So you need to make sure that you authenticate the user, as well as you authorize the access as well. But what makes authorization so complex? I know many of you have tried, or many of you have been implementing access control or authorization to the US system. But when it scales, it's pretty difficult. You have to consider a lot of things: number of users, number of roles, number of groups, number of the resources, and permissions. It's very simple at the beginning. If you build a simple authorization for the small system, it's easy. But when it comes to scale, then it's going to be nightmare. I've talked to many of the developers in my country, and that they say they're very struggling with first implementing access control. The second is maintenance for those access control thing. So let's see how the access control methods or way have been evolving. I'm going to introduce 4 things. But before introducing these things, please let me remind you, there's no good and bad. There's no right and wrong method for the access control. Just the way of the access controlling thing and the way of the characteristics are different. So I'm going to use the coffee beans, the coarse coffee beans and the fine-grained thing. So historically, we started using the access control list. So we have the list of the permissions that, hey, that this user can access this documentation. It worked in a small system. Then we started using role-based access control. The user has roles. Let's say that Kate has the product manager role. If the product manager role has, if the Kate is product manager role and the product manager can read a document, Kate has the permission to read a documentation, something like that. It's called coarse-grained authorization, role permissions kind of things. Then we started implementing attribute, like the IP address or time, to have more granular control for the access. So, for example, is Kate in the product development and it's working hours for Kate, then she can access to the documentation. It's not like a static roles or static attribute that you can check. It's something like dynamic thing. In order to make it happen, you have to query production database. For example, you have to check the time, you have to check the folder, or you have to check the live production database to make a decision. So every time you will do attribute-based access, it tends to have the latency because you have to access to the production data. And at last, there's called relationship-based access control, RBAC. This may be new to you. So this is something that you define relationship beforehand. Let's say project, document, folder, something like that. And every operation, you store those relationship inside of the system, so you don't have to query live data and have the more granular access to it. I'm going to show how you can define the model and how you can store those relationship data and how you can query the system in the later of the slide. Like I said, there's no right or wrong approach, but you can decide which one is suitable for your system and which one is suitable for the AI agent application. In this talk, I'm going to use the right side because I want to have the more granular control for each user for the AI agent application. So let me introduce the OpenFGA project. So this is the open source project owned by Cloud Native Computing Foundation. And it's maintenance by the Okta or other contributors. And recently, it's moved to the incubating maturity level in October. So a lot of companies started using implementing the system. So you can use this OpenFGA today for free. Now also it's inspired by Google's Zanzibar paper, which described how Google does access control or authorization of their product. For example, Google Drive. You can imagine that you can have like a folder, you can share each document, you can share the folder, and the permission changes a lot. Also, we built a commercial service called AuthorFGA based on the OpenFGA. So if you want to have the hosted services for this OpenFGA thing, you can check with the AuthorFGA as well. So where this FGA comes into the authorization. So without the FGA, typically user gets the access token after the authentication. Then API or server side validates this access token to have the access with the APIs. With the FGA, you can use the API side to make sure that the request the API code has relationship with the resources. So you have the more granular control. And another thing is you can centralize the authorization instead of having the authorization checks code everywhere in your application. Because every time you need to check the access controls, access thing, you can just query to the centralized system to check whether this user has the relationship with the resources, which enables you expand your entire product portfolio without having to implementing authorization logic for each application. So let's see in the details. In OpenFGA, you have the three concepts. First one is the authorization model. The second is the relationship tuples. The third one is the access control checks, check thing. Let's see first one. So inside of the authorization model, you create like a model for the relationship, which you need to make a decision. So let's say this one has the user and the documentation has the folder as a parent. Also, documentation has the owner. And also, the third one is very tricky. So documentation has the viewer relationship, which is the user or owner of the document, or viewer from parent, which means the folders, folders viewer can see this documentation as well. And the folder has the user relationship. So first, you define those relationship inside the model. And you don't have to define everything inside of your system. You just have to define the relationship which you need to make a decision for the access control. And the next one is every operation, you store the relationship information to the system as a called relationship tuple. So whenever the user added to the folder or user added to file to the system, you record these tuples. So first one is the user Kate has viewer relationship with the folder product. Other one is the folder product has the parent relationship with the documentation roadmap. So there is a documentation called roadmap stored inside of the product folder, and Kate is a viewer of the product folder. The third one is the user John has the viewer relationship with the documentation roadmap. So John has a viewer role to the roadmap documentation. So after executing all of the this operation, you have the information inside of the system. Then when it comes to the checks, you can just ask whether the user has the relationship with the selected resources. Let's go with that. So first one, user David. I don't know the David. There's no record inside the system. User David has the viewer relationship with the roadmap documentation. Since there's no tuples related to David, the system says no, he doesn't have the relationship, which means he doesn't have access to the documentation. The next one, user John, if user John has the viewer relationship with the documentation roadmap, hey, there is a tuple inside of the system. Yes, he has a relationship with the roadmap documentation, which means that he has access to the roadmap documentation. That's obvious, right? The third one is pretty interesting. If user Kate has viewer relationship with the documentation roadmap, there's no direct record that Kate has the viewer relationship with the roadmap documentation. But product folder has the parent relationship with the roadmap documentation, which means the product folder stores the roadmap documentation. And Kate is a viewer of the product folder, which should implies, hey, Kate has a relationship with the roadmap documentation because product folder contains the roadmap documentation. Then Kate should have access to the documentation. So answer is yes. So the power of the OpenFGA is you don't have to recursive search the folder or hierarchy in order to get the access permissions or like a check access permissions. So enough. So I'm going to have like 9 minutes left. So I'm going to show how FGA works with the AI agent. So let's get back to the practical example. AI agent can only access a company public record unless explicitly authorized. AI agent must not modify existing records. AI agent must not access confidential records for the records other employees have access to. So if you build the access control system with the FGA, you can check those controls inside of the RAG pipeline. So this is how it works. So usually user prompts a question, then the AI agent application retrieves the relevant data and passing to the model to get answer. But you can inject filtering process with the FGA. Hey, is this user of the AI agent application has access to the relevant documentation? If not, you can filter those documents before passing to the information to the model. This is the post-filtering approach. Second one is a similar one, but before retrieving the data, you can filter relevant documentation first. Hey, is this user having the access for the following documentation or existing old documentation? How many of them that a user can have access to it? Then you can pass those documentation to retrieve the relevant information. Then I pass it to the model. So in reality, let's see how it works. So let's say user John prompts the question. So use a query inside of the chatbot. Then pre-filtering, OpenFGA can do filtering for your file system. Like I said, there are information inside of the tuples. So you can check whether this document has whether John has the access to this documentation, something like that. Then I'm filtering the documentation. Then use OpenAI SDK to query the answer. And model uses the only documentation that John has access to it. So let's see in action. So I have already built the model inside of the my environment, which has the user. Let me just move into the Lurch thing. So there's a user, team, project. And team has the member, project has the admin, editor, viewer. The document has the admin kind of things. And you can see the graph inside of the this model. So project, team, user, documentation. So we're going to use this model. Also, there are tuples already inside of the system. So like I said, the project Odyssey, so it's called the Odyssey project, has the parent project object of the architecture documentation or something like that. So inside of this demo, it uses FGA, and you can choose the couple of the personas. So there's a CEO, there's the Raj, lead developer, there's a junior developer, and also the salesperson. And each people has different permissions to access to the documentation. So for example, the Bob has only the access to the public API documentation. Raj has the access to the 4 documentations. So like a public API, internal SDK, design mockups. CEO should have access to the all documentation, right? So with the FGA, you can filter these relevant documentation in order to get the proper answer for users. So first, I'm gonna ask the summary of the project with the financial performance. So I'm gonna sign in my authenticator as a Bob to ask the question. With the FGA, it should have access only one documentation. Then there's the answer. Now, unfortunately, this documentation doesn't contain the financial information. But with the FGA, you can ask the same question with the different permissions. So as Sandra, CEO, should have access to all information inside of the company. So the answer would be different. The project summary and also the financial projections. So let's see the all answer at once. So I'm gonna use a different question here. So this demo demonstrates what the answer for each personas. Like I said, that I asked what are the API endpoints. So Bob has only access to the public API endpoint information, but Raji has the answer because he has more information to the internal API specs. So you see how many documents that this used for the answer. But without FGA and asking the different question, it has a different answers, but you see the all persona have access to the all documentation, which you don't want to make it happen, right, with the system. So this is something you can control with the RAG pipeline with the access control. So I'm going to be wrapping up stuff. So like I showed, with the OpenFGA, you can inject filtering inside of the RAG pipeline. And if you want to try, you can go to the play.fga.dev. This is hosted by Okta for the OpenFGA playground. So you can build a model, and you can check with the permissions kind of things. Also, like I showed, you can build an authorization model, and you can make it a tuple with that. So with this OpenFGA thing, you can use the variety of the SDK available to the project, JavaScript, Python, .NET, Go, and also that it has the VS Code extension. It has the CLI tool as well. So you can get it started with the OpenFGA today. Also, it has the developer-friendly APIs. It's very simple, actually. This is the code that you use. So you typically use just check functions. Check if user has the relationship with their resources. That's all. So maintenanceability is pretty great. You don't have to write the raw SQL call, the sentences to get the data from the database. So to summary, AI introduced huge security risks: unauthorized data access, state of the over-provisioned permissions, compliance audit gaps, weak or coarse-grained authorization, secure credential leakage, privacy data leak exposure. And with OpenFGA, it can be secure and also scalable and developer-focused solution that you can use. Last, again, if you're interested in the OpenFGA, you can go to the github.com/OpenFGA or just search OpenFGA. And if you're interested in the hosted service for this fine-grained authorization, you can search Author authorization. Thank you. I'm out of my time, so if you have any question, I can take the question outside this room. Thank you for joining. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.